Skies are blue, clouds of white, the bright, blessed day, the dark, secret night, and I feel to myself, what a wonderful world.
And that is when everybody around me, including myself, were crying. That's a look at Broadway's A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical, the new show telling the story of the music icon, of course, the one and only Louis Armstrong.
And the voice bringing this legend to the stage is Tony Award-winning actor James Monroe Iglehart. So great to see you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for bringing me back. Glad to see you guys as always.
I mean, Louis Armstrong, whew. Yeah. Big shoes to fill.
Humongous shoes to fill.
Wow. Yeah. How was that taking on that role? And I'm always very curious when I hear you sing, obviously every actor or performer that does musicals has voice training, but did that take a toll on your voice? It does.
It does take a toll, but I've got a wonderful vocal instructor named Derek Rosenblatt who's helping me out and making sure that we are doing it. How do we put it? We put it to do it the healthiest way of unhealthiest of things.
Right.
And making sure that I stay where I'm supposed to be. Also, my wonderful, I have an ENT, Dr. Rosemary Deloge, who I see twice a month to make sure my cords are okay.
Yes.
And I rest. I am a hermit. If I'm not here with you guys and I'm at the show, I'm at the house chilling next to my wife, relaxing and not saying anything.
Yeah, because you know that's what people know is, of course, that voice and that, the raspiness and the grittiness of it all, right? But there's so much that encompasses Louis Armstrong. You know, I went to the museum, which is his home now in Queens.
Oh yeah,
but there's so much more than that. So music, touring, home life, wives, infidelity, and you kind of knock it all out the park in 2.5 hours. How did you kind of figure out where to go with it?
That was the hardest part with our other directors, Chris Renshaw and Christina Soja, as well as Christina Sajou, as well as our book writer Oren Squire, to take four decades and squash them down to 2 hours, try to find exactly the pinpoint places to go. Our show is one of those things where we are telling the truth, but we are also having to weave it through our own timeline, because we just don't have enough time to talk about everything the man did. I mean, he is a legitimate American icon. And so we did our best, and we're just glad people are enjoying the way we put it together.
Right. I mean, he is an icon, and so is the song A Wonderful World. What was that like?
It's emotional every night. It's emotional every night.
Do you hear the audience?
I do hear it, but also I start thinking about my career, my family, my wife, my kids, my friends, where I was when I first heard the song, where I was when I first wanted to do Broadway, and the fact that I look at the age I am now, and that I'm on Broadway and leading the show, doing this. So it all kind of encompasses that, not just telling the story every night, which is emotional, but when you have all those things together, plus the fact that I'm telling the story, I kind of go, I thoroughly understand.
Yeah, well, and there's so much to talk about too. And are you, by the way, you said the other directors, because you are one of the directors, so congratulations.
There's three of us as co-directors, Christopher Renshaw and Christina Sajou and myself.
So was it to tell the story through the lens of the women in his life? Is that kind of the
That was the original concept of the show that Chris Renshaw had. And then when we got back together from out of town and it was time to take it to Broadway, we started doing more research on Louis Armstrong and realized he's one of the only jazz musicians of his time to write his own autobiography. And he did so on purpose because he wanted to make sure that nobody told his story. There were so many other people out there, and no disrespect, but there are many people of color where some white person will try to tell your story. And he wanted to definitely make sure that whatever was said or whatever story was told, he told it. So he could tell his version. But the fun part is, as men of that generation do, if you're 20, you tell it one way, and then when you're 60, you tell it a different way. So we had to find a way to tell both of those stories, so we use the wives as kind of a way of telling, keeping him more on the truth level, as well as, you know, men, as they get older, love to tell their own version of what happened. And then the wife comes in and goes, that's not what happened, you know where you were.
Because what had happened was.
So that's kind of how our show is.
But obviously the whole story told through music, but you do a lot of stuff from jazz in New Orleans.
Oh gosh, yes, we have to. I mean, the funny thing is this man, he grew up in the battlefields of New Orleans and all the way to Chicago with King Joe Oliver. and then making it to Broadway with people like Bing Crosby, and all of a sudden, and then, you know, going to, he's always been to New York, but then to settle in New York when he got with his wife Lucille, and, you know, settling in Corona, Queens, and New York became his home. And so these 4 places are so iconic for their music, but as the music changed, so did Louis. And Louis, he changed with the times, but he also changed the times. Trumpet players to this day are still studying his stuff, wanting to play like him. He is still, there was, I think Miles Davis said that there's nothing that a trumpet player has played now that Louis didn't play years ago. He is literally, when it comes to his musicianship, most people think of his smile and his voice, but his musicianship is what makes him, what sets him apart from everybody else.
Was there anything that surprised you, or did you learn something new about him?
I never realized how hood he truly was. I think there's a moment in Entertainers of Color where there's a certain way we learn to talk, to be on television. There's a certain way we learn to act, to be on television. But then there's the way we act when we're with our family, when ain't nobody else around. And that particular person is what no one ever got to see from Louis Armstrong. And, you know, people say, who would Louis hang with when if he was here today? And I always go, Snoop Dogg.
Well, you know what's amazing when you say that is you hear in the museum, and you've been, right? You've been, obviously. But you hear they have the different rooms, and you press a button, and it's recording. Because he recorded so many of his own conversations, which was so fascinating. Because he wanted again to tell his own story. But for you to bring this character to life, you do it in a very James Monroe Iglehart way of. Sorry, my watch is going off. To interact with the audience.
Yes.
And so is that for you just like your pride and joy? Because you do it so effortlessly.
That's one of my favorite moments of the show. I love audience interaction because I think audiences get so complacent.
But you're breaking the wall.
They buy their ticket, they sit down, you entertain me. And I go, great, I promise to entertain you, but trust me, I'm going to involve you. So if you ever buy a ticket to a show that I'm involved in, just know I'm probably going to talk to you somewhere. You know, and the fun part is I got the great moment that Louis did that in his shows. He loved to mess with the people, and so I said we have to put that in the show. So we have 2 moments in the show where I get to play with the audience.
And you really, again, there was a woman yelled out something, and I'm not going to give too much away, but you ripped off the
Well, it's so wonderful to have you here, and congrats on the success of the show.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it.
The purple's nice too. I like the purple.
Well, you know, I knew I was coming to you guys, so I had to come and, you know, get myself a little dress up and look good, because you guys always look fabulous no matter when I come here. So thank you.
You look great, and you sound great. Thanks.
I would be nothing without this cast. So.
Thanks for taking your voice off of vocal rest to talk to us early.
Thanks.